Austin. Welcome to Lone Star Politics, right here on KVRX. I am the Doctor of Politics, Dr. Love, here for all of your local political news. And this semester, more recently, we are also talking about spirituality, positive psychology, and wonderful things that are happening in your life. If you are alive right now, healthy, and listening to this program, Alleluia, praise the Lord. Isn't it wonderful to be alive? Isn't it great to be in this wonderful city of Austin? My parents visited Austin this weekend, and they had a wonderful time. The weather was beautiful, except Friday was a little bit warm for them. They're from Ohio. But they just had a wonderful time. It's such a beautiful city. We are so privileged to live in Austin, Texas. Not only are we in the greatest state in the Union, that's right, Texas, baby. We are also in the greatest city in the greatest state in the Union. And may I say, we all live in the greatest country in the world. We are so privileged to be what I would consider to be the greatest city in the United States. So let's all just be thankful for the fact that we have delicious food, we have a wonderful college with all kinds of interesting things to do on campus, be they sports, art, or just getting to know a fellow student. And we have nature around us. We have water around Austin that is just beautiful to enjoy, especially around South Austin, Barton Springs. There's all kinds of beautiful scenery to enjoy. So Austin rocks. Oh, and did I mention we're the live music capital of the world? So Austin is totally awesome, and I hope you're grateful to live here each and every day because it is wonderful here. Just to let you know, I say a few controversial things. Anything I say is solely the opinion of myself, Dr. Love, and does not represent the opinions of KVRX, the University of Texas, the City of Austin, Travis County, the State of Texas, the United States of America, nor the United Nations. Boy, that's a lot of layers of government there. We got local government, we got county government, we got state government, and we got federal government, and if some people get their way, we would have world government. Really, the only person I report to is God. I think all these steps of government are unnecessary, or at least most of them are unnecessary in my daily life. But most of them probably won't agree with the things that I am going to say over the next hour. And just to warn you, this show might get a little wild. I'll be talking about an experience over my 30th birthday, and there may be some nudity during this show. So, if you are offended by nudity on the radio, I highly suggest you be ready to turn your stations when I tell you to, because there might be a little bit of nakedness going on in here. Welcome back to Lone Star Politics right here on KVRX. I'm the Doctor of Politics, Dr. Love, and you are listening to Lone Star Politics on 91.7. Now, I'd like to take this time to thank our very generous sponsors, which keep KVRX running. Thank you to LonghornBid.com, CongressKayaks.com, TennisBuddy.com. Thank you so much for your support of KVRX. Oh, I also want to thank WootenBarbershop.com, the Austin Cycling Association, and WillYouIgnite.com. That's WILLYOU Ignite.com. Thank you so much for sponsoring local independent radio. Listener, you are going to hear things this hour that you're not going to hear anywhere else. Some of it might not relate to you, and a lot of it will. And hopefully some of it's helpful to you, and you get some ideas that help you live a better, more fulfilling life. And you also learn a few things about what's going on here locally, right here in your town. This is stuff you're not going to get on CNN, and we need your support as a listener and the support of great sponsors like these to keep the station running. So thank you to our sponsors, and if you would like to donate, you can visit kvrx.org, and there's a donate button there if you'd like to give back to the station. Just so you know, I'm not getting any money for this show. I do this because I love it. I love sharing what I've learned with you, and I hope you enjoy the show as well, and I hope it's helpful to you. So, this past weekend, I turned the big 3-0. This is a huge landmark in my life. My 20s were outrageous. Basically, I spent them in school, learning and partying, and I spent 2 years off working and partying. I spent a year in San Diego going to culinary school and working as a waiter and bartender. That was just tons of fun, hanging out on the beach. And then I went to Las Vegas for a year. I worked as a bartender there, made tons of money, and did lots of despicable things. Las Vegas is a town that can really bring out the worst in people. I didn't trust anybody when I was there, and I lied, I cheated, I stole. I was not a good person. So I'm glad I got out of there when I did, because had I continued to live there, the lifestyle that I was in, I don't think I'd like who I was. I was not in touch with myself spiritually, and I was in denial about what I valued in life. When I was in Las Vegas, I pretty much only valued money and anything that got me money. And of course, sex was number 2 on the list. God was nowhere on there. Honesty, integrity were nowhere on there. And honestly, my safety wasn't either. I drove multiple times in very dangerous situations, and I'm so thankful that God protected me and got me home safely every night, because I would go to my car in the morning and then find a cocktail glass from a casino in my center console, and I'd be like, I don't remember getting this drink before I left. So really not a good way to live, and I'm just so thankful that here I am. I'm now 30. I'm just thankful to be alive at 30 after some of the things that I've done. I've had one near-death experience that actually happened when I first came to Austin. I was driving on the highway, going to Walmart to get ready to buy some stuff for a trip I was going to make for a friend of mine's birthday party. Now this friend of mine, I met him in Las Vegas. His name's Mike Huffington. You may know his wife, or his former wife. His former wife is Ariana Huffington, who's the editor-in-chief of the Huffington Post. I met him while I was in Vegas, and I was really excited to see him again. He's just a wonderful guy. He now makes movies primarily about, let's say, the homosexual culture in the United States and some of the prejudices that they deal with. He is bisexual, and he is taking it upon himself to kind of educate the world about bisexuality and homosexuality in some films that he's made. So I was on the way to get some stuff for the trip, and it was misting. And I got off the access road, and MapQuest told me I needed to make a hard right. And as soon as I got off the access road, I'm going 50 miles an hour, swerve my wheel to the right, and man, my wheel goes to the right, but my car just totally slides out, run right into a stop sign, and I shout out, God! And I smash into a telephone pole, and my car almost rolls over, if not for this pole right there. And I'm just fortunate to be alive after that. I was unhurt. My car was pretty messed up, but I'm just so thankful that God was looking out for me there and protected me at that very scary time, just as I moved to Austin. And I didn't drive for a couple months after that. I was really, really terrified of being on the road. Let this be a lesson to you. Get good tires. As my mother says, it's tires and brakes. Tires, brakes, and oil changes. If you take care of those things, your car is pretty much going to be safe and working well. So much is riding on our tires. I forget whose slogan that is, but having good tires is really important as far as safe driving, and having good brakes is really important as well. Everything else, not nearly as important as those things. So take care of those things and just be safe on the road. And speaking of car accidents, I was on campus last night, and I was waiting, this was 2 nights ago, and I was waiting for the bus to come take me home after class, and I'm sitting on the bench listening to some Earl Nightingale. Now, for those of you not familiar, Earl Nightingale is a self-help author who founded the company Nightingale Conant and produces lots of self-help programs. So I'm listening to Earl Nightingale talk to me about effective speaking. And he's saying that you got to speak the language of the people you're talking to. So if I'm speaking to engineers, I want to use engineering language. If I'm speaking to mothers, I want to use language that parents use. I want to talk about their children and so forth. I'm speaking with soldiers in Iraq. I want to make fun of their officers and talk about some of the things that soldiers face. So this is very important. So hopefully I'm speaking a language right now that you can relate to. If I'm not, I'm doing a poor job here. So I'm sitting there listening to this audio program, and I just hear a smash, and I look up, and there are 2 cars that just smashed right into each other, maybe 20 yards away from me. And I looked, and no one's doing anything. I'm like, oh my, this could be real problematic. So I just walk over. I walk over there and say, hey guys, are you okay? All right, cool. And then I go to the next car. Are you okay? Awesome. Why don't you pull into this spot over here? So we get them off the road, and thank goodness everybody was all right. The cars were a little bit messed up. One of them was not drivable. The other was. Police got there about 20 minutes later. I was instantly on the phone with them, and it took them a while to get there. And I don't know what they were able to do aside from write he said, she said about the incident. But car crashes happen everywhere. They really happen all the time. You've probably been in one, if not multiple. I've been in off the top of my head. I've been in two in my car, two in girlfriends' cars, and one when my mother was driving. So that's it. So that was 5 in 30 years. Once every 6 years, and I've witnessed a fair amount too, especially in Las Vegas. Car accidents everywhere. So please be safe out there. Leave a little bit early. This is one thing I've learned in my 30 years. Enjoy your drive. I drive about 15, 20 minutes to get to school. That's 15 or 20 minutes is really valuable time for me. It's time I spend in prayer, it's time I spend in thought, and it's time I spend not only rocking out in my car to some great music, but also it's time that I spend listening to self-development programs, and I try to improve myself and think about ways that I can make myself a better person and contribute more to society. It's easy to have quality time in the car when you are not in a rush. When you're in a rush, every second you're getting more stressed and you're looking to change lanes quickly. You're probably doing some unsafe things, trying to get there just a fraction of a second earlier. Leave 5 minutes early, 5 minutes earlier than you need to in order to get there on time, and enjoy your drive. Savor that time. You then get to use that 15 minutes instead of suffer during that 15 minutes or 20 minutes or whatever your commute is. So when you leave early, your drive time becomes enjoyable time that you can do whatever you want with. You can pray, you can think, you can make phone calls on a headset. Thanks to government intervention, you now can't hold the phone up to your ear. I think that's absolutely ridiculous, but that's the kind of overarching government that Austin City Council is. They believe that they have the right to tell you how you can behave in your car. I think you should be charged for reckless driving, not for driving while talking on the phone. If you're doing reckless driving, hey, you should be pulled over and disciplined. But if you're driving safely and talking on the phone, that's not a crime in my book. So, if you're going to be talking on the phone, make sure you got your headset in. Or, listen to some self-development programs. There's all kinds of stuff. You can get stuff for free online. Earl Nightingale, if you look him up on YouTube, you can find all kinds of free sessions with him online. You can get lots of self-development CDs if you're looking to improve some part of your life, either business success or your relationships, or improve your relationship with God. If you're a religious person, you can listen to religious music. That always lifts me up in my day when I'm driving in my car. There's so much we can do in our commute time, and it'd be a shame to waste that all and just make ourselves stressed by leaving late. So leave a little bit early and enjoy your drive and use that time as effectively as possible to do whatever you'd like to, be it connect with God, talk to yourself, talk to a friend, or improve yourself, or even improve your vocabulary. Plug in a tape vocabulary builder. By the way, did you know that one of the greatest indicators of income is size of vocabulary? People who make more money know more words. So if you'd like to improve your income, one way that might help would be to learn a few more words. So plug in a vocabulary builder instead of stressing out about your drive, and see what happens in a year or two. So my parents were in town. They loved Austin. Let me give you a rundown of what it was. They were here for my 30th birthday. They had never been to Austin before. I'm coming up on my 6th year here. I've been in Austin 5 full years, and they've never come to visit me, which I can't understand. This is just the greatest city in the country, the best city in Texas, and even when we had the #1 football team and the #1 basketball team, I still couldn't get my parents to visit. And my dad's a basketball coach, and he loves football, and he loves going to basketball games. They still wouldn't come. So finally, I was like, listen, I'm graduating this year. It's football season. You got to come to a football game. You got to get over here. And finally they did, and I was so happy that they came for my birthday. It was So wonderful. Listener, if your parents are alive, just think about how much your parents love you. Parents are so wonderful. Mine, I don't know your parents, but if your parents are anything like my parents, they love you so much. They really care about you. They only want what's best for you. And it's wonderful as an adult to see your parents and to really understand that. Growing up, I thought my parents were kind of there to stop me from having fun. I wanted to do things. I wanted to stay out late. I wanted to eat unhealthy food. And I didn't want to study that much. And my parents, thankfully, had me eat healthily. They had me frequently exercise. I played a bunch of sports in high school. And I studied a lot in high school. Did not go out that much until senior year. And I thank them for that. It's made me a better person. It helped me get into a good school. And I'm really happy with where I am in my life right now. But we view parents as these dictatorial tyrants that inhibit our fun. And as an adult, you realize, my gosh, my parents are awesome. They're just wonderful, loving people, and it's great that they're alive. If your parents are alive, it's a blessing. If your grandparents are alive, that's wonderful. My grandparents have been dead for 4 years now. It was wonderful when they were alive and I could talk with them, but it's so great to realize how wonderful your parents are. And Mom and Dad, since you're listening, I just wanted to thank you for being such wonderful parents, and thank you for all that you've done in my life, the way you've raised me, and the education opportunities you've given me, and the encouragement and love, and for leading me spiritually in my life. So thank you so much, and thank you to all the parents out there that are doing their best job to raise their children. It's so tough to raise children these days, with fast food everywhere, with fluoride in the water, with social media just crowding out any family time you have. I can't imagine raising a family today. And some parents are doing a really great job, and a lot of parents are trying really hard. So thank you for all of your efforts. So my parents came into town, and they got here on Friday. They got here just in time for my Zumba class, which was just awesome. They got to meet my class, which was 28 females, which was a lot of fun for my dad. And they actually participated in the class. And when it was their turn to dance in the center of the class, they were just going wild and crazy, and all the girls were clapping for them. It was awesome. After that, we headed to Chuy's Mexican restaurant, which is where my roommate's boyfriend worked. And he waited on us. That was lots and lots of fun. And then we went to the Botanical Gardens in South Austin. Now, listener, if you have not been to the Botanical Gardens, I highly recommend checking that out. It is beautiful. Now, I'm upset that they're now charging you to go in there. When I went there a year ago, I actually took a girlfriend there on Valentine's Day for a pseudo picnic. Our picnic consisted just of chocolate and wine. It's so nice there, and it's just wonderful. And everyone who visits me in Austin, I take them to the Botanical Gardens. But now they're charging, and very few people are there. And the amount they charge, I think, is just enough to pay the salary of the guy who's there charging you to enter. So shame on whoever's in charge of the Botanical Gardens for charging people to go in there, because that should be available to everyone. And if charging $2 a person turns anybody off from going, it's a failure, because everybody in Austin should be able to enjoy the Botanical Gardens without worrying about expenses of it. I understand it takes upkeep to keep that place looking nice, but I don't want anyone to be prohibited from going to the Botanical Gardens, because it's just beautiful, and it really makes you appreciate nature when you can just surround yourself by these beautiful creatures that God put on this earth for us to enjoy. You can surround yourself in bamboo. There's ponds of goldfish there. It's just a lovely place. So we went there, and then we went to Justine's for dinner. Justine's is one of those tiny little weird Austin restaurants that's on 5th Street that's really far east. In fact, there's nothing around it. There's a bunch of factories or warehouses around it. It is a strange neighborhood, and it is a delicious French restaurant with really reasonable prices. And I knew they'd like it because it's very Austin, because it's just very different. I got the steak tartare, which is a raw steak. The next day, we went to first I introduced him to the Food is Free Project. Now, for those of you who've been listening for a while, the Food is Free Project is a great project that was started here in Austin that's designed to reach out to the community. The Food is Free Project basically puts low-maintenance garden beds in the front of houses. And let's say you and I are neighbors. I'm growing cucumbers in my bed, you're growing tomatoes, our other neighbor is growing squash. You can take my cucumbers, I can take your tomatoes, and we can all take his squash. We basically share all the food that's grown in our garden beds. The idea is that all the food grown in these front yard beds is communal. It's open to anybody who has a garden bed. So the idea is that you get the community involved in growing some of their own food. You can't feed your whole family off this little garden bed, but you know what? You can start, and once you see how easy it is to grow food, you really gain an appreciation for the fact that we have access to food, and you also might develop a desire to eat more organic food. GMOs is a really hot political topic. In fact, it's not political at all because nobody likes GMOs except for those that work for the evil Monsanto Corporation. Yes, Monsanto is very evil. They sue farmers who accidentally grow their crops. So let's say I'm driving a Monsanto truck. The wind picks up, one of my seed blows into your farmland, and you grow one of my evil genetically modified tomato plants. Let's say soy, because almost all soy is genetically modified by Monsanto in this country. So let's say you grow one of my genetically modified soy plants. I then sue you and your farm for stealing my property and for growing one of my plants. But in reality, I'm the one who did you wrong because my seed accidentally got into your field. But I'm charging you for stealing my intellectual property or my physical property, being the seed and like all the genetic engineering that went into the seed. That's how evil Monsanto is. If you'd like to find out more, you can check out Food Inc. It's a documentary about food in this country and how far we've come from eating natural food and really how processed our food is, how devoid it is of nutrition, and how evil genetically modified foods are, and how evil Monsanto is. They are indeed a terrible, evil corporation, and I can't wait till they go bankrupt for all the atrocities they've committed on the human species. Thanks to Monsanto, we are fed food that is devoid of nutrition, is addictive to our bodies based upon the way that it tastes, and it's downright harmful to us, and we don't know the full effects of how harmful it is. We won't know for years to come. But what do you think happens when your body, which has evolved over hundreds of thousands of years, if not millions of years, to process food designed by God, grown on God's green earth, what do you think happens when you put in food that's been designed in the laboratory by some evil scientist whose goal is simply to make money for their company? Their goal is not to feed more people. GMO food does not grow more abundantly. You're not going to feed more people with GMO food. That is a myth. Second of all, it lacks the nutrition that the regular food does. So even if you could feed more food, it's not as healthy for you. So you're going to have to eat more of it. Hence, make more money. Feed them less nutritious food. They need to eat more to stay healthy. So that's the situation we're in, where we have these evil companies like Monsanto spreading lies about how good their food is for you, when in reality it is terrible for you. We don't know the effects that it's damaging our bodies. I mean, who knows how much cancer this is causing? What do you think happens when your body, which has evolved to eat natural food, starts digesting food that has been designed by an evil scientist? Who knows? But here's what's wonderful. It's like 97% of Republicans and like 98% of Democrats want labeling of genetically modified food. That's right, everybody wants labeling. You want labeling. Unless you work for Monsanto, you want to know if you're eating genetically modified food. And that's wonderful. The problem is that no state legislature, nor is the federal government, nor is the Congress have the cojones to step up and say, do you know what? The people want this, we're going to do it. Monsanto pushes back so hard. There was one state in the Northeast, I think it was Maine, or it might have been New Hampshire, was trying to label GMO foods. They had a great bill that was going through their state house, and Monsanto stomped it out. Monsanto came down and said, look, if you do this, if you sponsor this bill, we're going to get you unelected next year. We're going to spend hundreds of thousands of dollars, if not millions of dollars, to get you, state representative, unseated. So you better not pass this bill. And that bill died. Monsanto was effectively able to intimidate an entire state legislature from doing something that 98% of its citizens wanted it to do. That is scary. That is terrifying that some evil corporation has that kind of influence over government. Not just influence over government, but influence over our bodies, over our food, over your body. Monsanto controls what goes into your body. Unless you're shopping at Whole Foods, you are eating Monsanto food one way or another if you're buying processed food, especially if you're eating corn or soy. Almost all soy in this country is resistant to Raid. Raid is that chemical spray. And why is it resistant to Raid? Because Monsanto designed it that way. So if you're a vegetarian or a vegan and you think you're being healthy eating soy, you are eating Monsanto garbage. Monsanto is determining what's going into your body. It is really sad and scary, and they are interfering in the democratic process because we all want labeling on food. So I hope this is of interest to you, and if it is, you can look at naturalsociety.com and read more about the GMO foods and what you can do to stop it. There's a lot of petitions going on online to get genetically modified food labeled, so there's lots of things you can do if you'd like to take some action on that. So, since my parents are here, I introduced them to the Food is Free project. Now, this is a project that started here in Austin by a gentleman named John Edwards. If you'd like to look him up on Facebook, it's John Van Dusen, Vandeusen. He didn't want to be known as John Edwards because of the politician. And he started up this nonprofit called Food is Free, which builds garden beds that water from underneath. Basically, you have a pipe that goes through the soil to the bottom of the garden bed that's lined with plastic. And at the bottom of the garden bed there is crushed rock. And the water goes into the crushed rock, fills that up, goes through let's say a burlap sack or some kind of layer, wicks up through that and goes into the soil. So basically your water goes underneath and goes up through the soil. So this is really great in hot climates like Texas, where you have to water twice a day for your garden not to die. With this, you can water once every 2 weeks and your vegetables do well. So you can see why this is revolutionary, and you can see why this is scary to companies that don't want you to grow your own food. In fact, the government in general doesn't want you to grow your own food, nor do they want you to grow your own medicine. Like in California, you can grow your own medicine there because you can grow marijuana. And marijuana is effective in depression, insomnia. Those are two very common disorders. You got people who have cancer. It's great for pain for that. People who have trouble vomiting from chemotherapy. 1 in 4 of us is going to get cancer. Those are the statistics right now, thanks to all the toxins we put in our bodies. So 1 in 4 of us will benefit from medical marijuana, either because of the pain or because it'll help us eat enough to stay healthy for chemotherapy, because chemotherapy decreases your appetite, and marijuana is an appetite stimulant. Also good for those with AIDS who have AIDS wasting syndrome. If you've known anyone who's died of AIDS, a lot of them have trouble eating at the end. And marijuana helps stimulate appetite and helps them keep their strength as they're fighting off this disease. You look at cancer. Steve Jobs. Steve Jobs was wasted away to nothing. He had cancer. I don't know why he didn't take medical marijuana, considering that he had done LSD and marijuana growing up in high school. But for some reason, he chose not to do medical marijuana, even though he lived in California. And he just had no appetite at the end. So this is a really valuable medicine that people can grow in California, but the government doesn't want us to. In fact, the federal government came in and said, even if your life depended on it, you're not allowed to take marijuana. That's ludicrous. Talk about government intervention. That's government saying, our laws are more important than your life. Well, do you know what, government of any size, local, state, county, federal? My life is not for you to decide. I get to decide how I run my life. I get to decide what I put into my body, and I have the right to know whether or not the food on the shelf has genetically modified ingredients or not. And it is your job, government, to give me those labels, to demand that those labels go on all foods, because I have a right and you have a right to know what's going into your body. And if I choose to consume marijuana because it's helpful for my cancer, that is my right, and it's not your place to decide that I die and suffer because you think that this plant that God created is evil. And it's not your right to say, oh, well, my term in office is more important than people knowing what's in their food. No, you are elected to serve the people, and so you better start doing it. Let's start getting some genetically modified labeling legislation going in this country. How about in Texas? We need Texas legislators to step up and demand labels on our food. Texans want it. Both parties want it. Only Monsanto doesn't want it. And we need to really get some solidarity here and demand from our government that they label food so that we know what's going into our bodies and take control of our food source and take control of our bodies and take it out of the hands of government and definitely out of the hands of big business. So we were just talking about how evil Monsanto is. They're evil because they inhibit democracy. 98% of Americans, we're talking both parties, Republicans, Democrats, we're talking libertarians. Everybody wants labeling on genetically modified food, and the government isn't giving it to us. Congress is scared. State legislators refuse to touch it. It is despicable. It is so sad that our legislators refuse to address this essential issue. This affects everyone. If you eat food in the United States, if you ate food today, if you plan on eating food tomorrow, this affects you. This affects what you buy and what goes into your body. Now, do any of you out there think you have a right to know what goes in your own body? Do you have a right to know what's in your food? Do you have the right to determine what you ingest and put into your body? Of course you do. This is a free society. You have a right to know what you put into your body, and you have a right to choose. You have a right to choose what goes in your body. You are a sovereign individual. Your body is a gift from God. It is your temple, and you can do with it as you like. The idea that the government refuses to demand labeling on food is absolutely absurd. So hopefully the Texas State Legislature will step up this time and do what everybody wants, which is label genetically modified foods. And hopefully Monsanto starts to just crumble, because I refuse to buy food that has Monsanto products in it now. And I hope that more and more people do this so that they lose money and that they stop doing evil things. And just so you know how truly evil Monsanto is, they for a time had the aspartame patent. Aspartame is also known as NutraSweet. NutraSweet was created, they said, to reduce calories in soft drinks. Now, what happens? They've done studies where they looked at people who drank diet soda and regular soda. Guess who got diabetes more? The diet soda. Why? Because when you drink diet soda, you fool your body. Your tongue tastes sweet, but your body doesn't get calories when it does that. So your body jacks up its insulin, getting ready to take in sugar, but your body doesn't get sugar. And so next time you eat, your cells are starved. They're just dying for food because your insulin was spiked because they thought they were getting food earlier when you drank that diet soda. And so people that have this, that messes up their insulin, they eat more food when they're exposed to it, and their insulin response is off. So people are more likely to develop diabetes when they drink diet soda. So what do you think about that? Sure, you intake less calories then, but you intake more calories later, and you're messing with your body's natural response. When your body tastes something sweet, it says, oh good, I'm getting sugar. I will release some insulin to absorb it. And when you fool your body, you're really messing with your body chemistry there. So they owned this patent for a long time. And aspartame is the most dangerous food additive in history, is the most complained about in history. There are thousands of side effects to aspartame, from headaches to nausea to vomiting. People have gotten cancer from it. Lab rats have gotten lots of cancer from it, but somehow the FDA still approved it. Yet, the FDA won't approve stevia. Stevia is a natural plant that people have used in Japan for a long time. They use it in Europe. They've used it in South America. No problems documented whatsoever. But, here comes the great help of government, but Americans do things in excess, according to the FDA. Therefore, we cannot approve stevia for consumption because we don't know what happens when you consume a lot of it. Now, let me back that up for you. Aspartame is in hundreds of products, and we know it's dangerous. We know it causes cancer. We know it causes headaches. We know it causes all kinds of problems for people. That is legal. Sugar. Sugar is very dangerous. Sugar leads to diabetes. Sugar weakens your immune system. The more sugar you ingest, the weaker your immune system is. Sugar, in the time of the British Navy, the 1800s, sugar led to scurvy. Sugar decreases the amount of vitamin C your body absorbs, and it depletes your body of vitamin C. Sugar's killed hundreds of thousands of British sailors. Think about it, the British Navy was the best fed Navy in the world. They're dying from malnutrition. Why? Because they didn't have enough citrus fruit and they had too much sugar in their diet. So we know we have excess sugar. What's the result? It's estimated that 1 in 3 children growing up today will have diabetes. 1 in 3! This is a huge problem that we're going to have to deal with. And you know what? The FDA is fine allowing sugar everywhere and having vending machines in elementary schools. What happens when you allow kids to drink soda at an early age? I've seen parents give Coke to babies in bottles. What happens when children get accustomed to drinking this extremely sweet substance at an early age? It messes with their bodies, it messes with their development, and it makes them obese for life. But thank goodness they're not drinking stevia, because according to the FDA, we Americans do things in excess, clearly. That's why we're the most obese nation in the world. We eat too much, drink too much, smoke too much. We don't smoke too much marijuana, we smoke too much tobacco. By the way, do you know why Americans get more lung cancer than the French? Because our tobacco wrappers, what's our tobacco is wrapped in, has more chemicals in it than in France. And our tobacco actually has more sugar in it. How about that? So in France, there's much less incidence of lung cancer because their wrapping for the tobacco is more natural and their tobacco is made with less sugar. Whereas in the United States, we got sugary tobacco and we got chemical-laden wrappers on your cigarettes. If you smoke cigarettes, you'll notice in the United States that a lit cigarette will stay lit for an extended period of time. Whereas in Europe, if you light a cigarette, it'll go out if you're not puffing on it. It's because the paper does not have the chemicals to keep it burning. So as a result, we smoke more cigarettes in the United States and we're poisoning ourselves even more. Tobacco, I think, is a harmful substance that has killed lots and lots of people. But it's not just the tobacco. The tobacco companies have insisted on wrapping the tobacco in dangerous paper and in sugary paper that is causing even more death than it needs to. So, thank goodness the FDA is there to protect us from stevia. There's not one report of any damage ever being done with stevia, despite the fact that it's used freely in other countries. Yet, American farmers and American producers cannot make stevia products. Imagine if we had candy made of stevia. Imagine if you don't get a huge sugar burst, a huge spike in your glycemic index when you eat ice cream or suck on a mint. Wouldn't that be great? What would that do for diabetes in this country? It would extremely lower it because our food can be sweet, yet it doesn't have the calories, which causes the weight gain. It doesn't spike the insulin, doesn't spike the glycemic index like regular sugar, and it doesn't mess with it like aspartame. Thank goodness the FDA is there to protect us. Oh goodness, where would we be without them? Well, without the FDA, we might be able to grow our own marijuana and medicate ourselves for depression, insomnia, and anorexia. If the FDA weren't there, we would actually have natural sweeteners in our food instead of the highly refined sugars or the very dangerous chemicals of aspartame. Without the FDA, we might actually know what's in our food. We would know that there are genetically modified ingredients in there, rather than the FDA protecting Monsanto and all the farmers that use hormones to grow their meat. We don't know what hormones are used to grow our meat and make it big and fat. Do you know why? Because the FDA doesn't demand labeling. The FDA is run by people that support those agricultural businesses that use hormones and all kinds of unnatural things to grow their meat bigger and fatter than is natural. As a result, we are swallowing lots of hormones, lots of genetically modified ingredients, and who knows what it's doing to our bodies. The result is this: America is the fattest, most obese, most diabetic country in the nation. And it's about time that we get the education we need by knowing what's in our food so that we can make responsible choices as consumers. Now, I promised you a little bit of nudity on the show, and I'm not one to disappoint. Last weekend, I gave myself a little treat for my 30th birthday. I went out into the woods. I asked God a question. I said, God, what should I do with my life? I've been wandering this earth for 30 years. I've been in school, I've been educating myself, but I'm not sure what I'm supposed to do with my life. Help me, God. And I read Mark. Ask and ye shall receive. Seek and you shall find. Knock and the door will be opened. And I said, God, just please give me the answer. Help guide me in my life. And I went up there for 3 days. I didn't eat. I just drank water. And so I fasted and I prayed and I meditated and I slept outside. I didn't bring a tent. I slept amongst the rocks for protection from the wind because it was very cold and windy up there, up in Big Bend. And God answered me. God gave me direction in my life, and I'm so thankful. And it was a wonderful experience. And just thinking about it makes me want to get all natural here. So, listener, if you're still there, if you're offended by nudity, now's the time to turn your station. But I am indeed getting naked right now in the booth. Oh yeah. And I think we as a society need to be more comfortable with nudity. Why? Because it's the way God made us. We shouldn't shriek from it. Now, it'd be nice if people were more in shape. And now this goes back to the genetically modified foods. We don't know what's in our foods. That's a problem. And as a result, we do not know, what we're ingesting. So here I am. I'm now naked in the booth. So if you come to visit the studio, you'll catch yourself a little peep show. But I just feel like being the way that God made me. And John, I'm even taking off my wristband, so I'm really just all natural here. So one thing I think that we don't appreciate is our bodies. These are really amazing things that have evolved over hundreds of thousands of years that do wonderful, amazing things. And they're really a gift from God. And we really do ourselves a disservice and God a disservice by not taking care of them. I mean, think about it. This is the one thing that you have for your life. This and your brain. If you're not taking care of your brain and you're not taking care of your body, you're just hurting yourself. It just makes no sense to be unhealthy as far as your body, to not be fit, and it makes no sense to not be filling your mind, to not be exercising your mind, and to be improving your mind. Because let's face it, if you are in this country and you are doing work, you're either doing work with your mind, your body, or both. You're doing physical labor, you are thinking, writing, reading, or you're doing some combination of both. Like if you work construction, or let's say you are a cabinet maker, you're having to figure stuff out, do drawings, and construct cabinets with your hands. So our bodies and our minds are really the gifts that we are given by God. They're irreplaceable, and taking care of them is really essential. And I'd like to encourage you really just to take time and thank the Creator, whatever you call the Creator, whether it be the Divine Spirit, whether it be God, Allah, Buddha, Jesus, one of the many Hindu gods, Yahweh, whatever you call the Creator of this earth. Because any way you look at it, something created this earth and this universe, be it the Big Bang and the energy that's used, the energy that flows through all of us. There's an energy that flows through every living thing, every living creature. And that energy, I think, is the divine presence. And so any way you look at it, divinity is around us and it flows through us, this divine energy. And we should really be thankful for these wonderful bodies. I mean, we can walk, we can talk, we can crawl, we can run. And thanks to our minds, we can fly, we can swim on our own, we can go long distances in boats. Our ability to move and to travel is absolutely amazing. And our ability to think is unparalleled in the animal kingdom. I mean, we construct books, not only for pleasure, but for learning. You can hop on Google right now and learn about any subject if you have the patience to read through it. This is just amazing, the food that we have for our brains. And it's sad, the food that we put in our bodies, because we can fill our brains with just wonderful stuff. And yet, our food supply is really contaminated with genetically modified foods. Our water is contaminated with fluoride that the government adds. They insist it's good for our teeth. But you know what? My toothpaste says don't swallow. So if I'm not swallowing my toothpaste, why do I want to swallow water with fluoride in it? Answer me that. And you know what? City councils refuse to answer those questions. So it's important to feed our bodies well, not only mentally, but also physically, and also spiritually. Now, mentally, if you're listening to this show, you are doing a good job feeding your brain. If you're like most Americans, you probably spend a lot of time watching television or just wasting time on Facebook or YouTube. Now, I love playing around on YouTube and learning what other videos are out there. It's kind of like alternative media. But there's so much garbage out there. If you turn on the television and just flip through stations, there's just really a bunch of nonsense out there that is not helpful to you. And I'd encourage you to really enjoy your brain and nourish your brain. Your brain is craving information. It's craving knowledge and exercise. So exercise your brain with some reading if you want to exercise your brain. And if you want to improve your reading, there are speed reading courses out there. I've recently taken some speed reading courses. I'm doing one right now called photo reading, which claims that you can basically absorb a book by paging through it really quickly and then kind of sleeping on it and then allowing your unconscious brain to absorb it and then spending time thinking about it, paging through it again, and you basically pick up a lot of the book there. I just got it. I'm going to check it out. It's called photo reading. I read it. Tony Robbins endorses it, and so I like Tony Robbins, so I thought I would try it out. But we should be teaching children in school, we should be teaching students in school of all ages how to read more effectively. What's more important than how well you read? If you can read fast, if you can read well, if you can retain a lot of the information, you will be a good student in any field. And you will be effective in your job, and you will be able to get more information that you need in your life. If you are a slow reader, you're going to have trouble developing yourself because you're going to spend a lot more time reading through the self-help books. I can go through a book in a couple hours now. Maybe 4 or 5 hours I can get through a book. Before it used to take me twice as long. And now I enjoy it more, I retain more. And these are the skills that we should be teaching in school. School is broken right now, ladies and gentlemen. We are teaching people facts and figures and dates that are not important. In fact, in Texas, we've taken Thomas Jefferson out of the textbooks. Thomas Jefferson is one of the most founding fathers. He, in fact, stopped the importation of slaves into the United States. He wrote the Declaration of Independence. This man is extremely important. In fact, he's one of the most intelligent founding fathers we've ever had. According to Bill Clinton, there was the only time there was more intelligence in the White House was when Thomas Jefferson dined alone. The idea that he's not in the textbooks is silly. Education is broken. We're teaching children the wrong history. We're not teaching them the history of the banking and money system, which is basically composed of lies and fraud. If you don't believe that, you can just Google money system, Federal Reserve fraud, and find lots of information about that. But we don't talk about the important history in this country. And now, today, we are involved in a war that's been going on forever, and yet we don't feel like we're at war. In Vietnam, we knew we were at war. Now we just play along like there's nothing wrong and that this is the status quo, that we're always going to have troops out somewhere. That is not the way it should be. That's not what we should be teaching our children. That's not the way we should feel as students. If this were the 60s, with the Vietnam War going on, there'd be war protests every day on campus. I can't remember the last time there was a protest against the war. A friend of mine, John Bush, protested the war when Barack Obama was on campus. He got arrested. Someone was arrested on campus for protesting the war while the president was here. Why, you ask? Because he was outside of the, quote, free speech zone. Remember those evil things that Bush put together? The free speech zones? Which basically means that if you do not support the president, he can push you off to the side so the media doesn't see you. Well, John Bush was not going to be sequestered by the free speech zone, and so he was arrested. Absolutely ridiculous. So that's what it's come to. When you protest the war, you get arrested as opposed to being celebrated as exercising your First Amendment rights. That's a society we live in. We're teaching our children the wrong thing. We're teaching them that war is okay, and we're teaching them that to regurgitate facts and figures. And my goodness, we have parents in this country feeding their children sugary beverages like Coke, thinking that that's okay. America, we need to wake up. If you're listening to this show, you are well on your way to waking up, and we got to do a better job. We got to take care of our minds, we got to take care of our bodies, and we got to take care of our children, and we need to fix the education system. What can you do right now? Be careful, I'm naked over on this side. I'm doing my show en natural. I'll be out in a second. Yeah.
Oh, okay. Well, okay.
So there's something that you can do. You can get involved in any way you can. You can protest fluoride here in Austin. You can go to the state legislature and demand that they label genetically modified foods. You can go visit Congress and ask them to do the same. I suggest starting locally because you'll have much more impact there. The state legislature is only a couple miles away right here in Austin. More importantly, take care of yourself. Feed yourself good, healthy food. Feed your mind good stuff. Take care of your children. Protect them from sugar and aspartame in diet soda. Give them healthy food. Keep them away from the television, and teach them how to read effectively. And take a speed reading course if you want to improve your reading. It's one of the best things I've ever done. I can read twice as fast, and it's really enjoyable. So just take care of yourself and share the information with others. And sooner or later, we will be strong and effective enough to demand from our government the things that we all want, like labeling on food and fluoride-free water.